afternoon, children, or good morning, or whatever. Are you comfortable? Because it's story time again. Oh, isn't that exciting? And I've got a nice story to read to you called The Elves and the Shoemaker. Look, the little tiny elves are making shoes. I wonder what it's all about. So let's have a look and see. The Elves and the Shoemaker. Once upon a time, there was a shoemaker and his wife. The shoemaker worked very hard, but they were very poor. One day, all the shoemaker had left was one small piece of leather. "I'll only be able to make one pair of shoes," said the shoemaker. Look, there's him and his wife discussing, and there's his work table. Oh dear, oh dear. The shoemaker cut out a pair of shoes and left them on his workbench to sew the next morning. The next morning, the shoemaker was very surprised. He found a pair of shoes on his workbench. They were perfect, but the shoemaker did not know who had sewn them. They're just beautiful. Look, there's all the pieces, and he's going to say good night, and he says, in the morning, I'm going to sew them. But in the morning, he found this perfect pair of shoes. They were perfect. Tiny little stitches, beautifully made. That day, a rich lady came into the shop and put on the shoes. "They're a perfect fit," said the rich lady. She gave the shoemaker a big bag of money. "They're just amazing shoes. Look at that." Oh, she was so happy with the shoes. Now the shoemaker had money to buy leather for 2 pairs of shoes. So off he went and got the leather for his 2 pairs of shoes. Isn't that exciting? The shoemaker cut out the 2 pairs of shoes and left them on his workbench to sew the next morning. There he is. Look, he's cut out the 2 pairs of shoes. And now he's going to leave them there because it's night time, and he's going to get up in the morning and make the 2 pairs of shoes. The next morning, the shoemaker was very surprised. He found 2 pairs of perfectly made shoes on his workbench. And he called his wife, and his wife said, "Oh, they're perfect. Look at the little tiny stitches. Look at them looking at the 2 pairs of shoes." Isn't that exciting? That day, a rich man came into the shop and bought both pairs of shoes. He gave the shoemaker 2 big bags of money. "I'll take both pairs," he said. Look, there he is. Oh, isn't that exciting? Hey? The shoemaker was very happy. Now he had enough money to buy leather to make 4 pairs of shoes. Oh, I'm very happy. Look at that. He's making 4 pairs of shoes now. Night after night, the same thing happened. The shoemaker cut out the leather and left it on the workbench. Every morning, he found perfect shoes in its place. Oh, I wonder who's making the shoes. But the shoemaker still did not know who was sewing the shoes. Look, there they are. Look at all those pairs of shoes. Isn't they so lucky? And all beautifully made. Very nice. One night, the shoemaker and his wife hid in the workshop, and they waited, quietly. They waited to see who would come. There they are, hiding in the cupboard in the workshop. Shh. At midnight, 2 tiny little elves ran in. Their clothes were very old and patchworked, and they jumped onto the workbench and started to sew. They did not stop until the last shoe was made. Look at them, working away so hard. Aren't they such good little elves? "We must make the elves a present," said the shoemaker to his wife. So the shoemaker made 2 tiny little pairs of shoes about that big, and his wife made 2 tiny little suits. It took them a very long time. Look, there they are sewing the tiny little shoes and the tiny little trousers. Because elves are only tiny. They're only about that big. So they're very small. One night, they left the shoes and the suits on the workbench. And then they went and hid again. Shh, and waited to see what happened. Look, they're hiding in the cupboard again. Shh. don't tell the owls. Look at that. And did you see on the table was 2 little jackets, 2 little trousers, 2 little boots, and 2 little socks. At midnight, the 2 tiny elves ran in. They jumped onto the workbench. Oh, they were very surprised. They weren't shoes to make. They were new clothes. They saw the tiny clothes and the shoes. Oh, we love our shoes, and look at our clothes, they said. They put on the new clothes and the new shoes, and they were so happy. They were dancing on the table. Look at that. Oh, my. They really liked their clothes and their shoes. The shoemaker and his wife never saw the elves again. But they did not mind. The elves had brought them good luck. They brought us such good luck and will never be poor again. And from that day on, the shoemaker worked harder than ever. And they were never poor again because he had a lovely stock of beautiful shoes. And he was able to catch up and work really hard. My, oh my. So who made all the shoes for the shoemaker? They weren't fairies, were they? What were they? They were tiny little elves. And they came in at midnight. They must have been like the owls. Remember last week, we were talking all about animals that did things at night. So the 2 little elves were just the same, weren't they? Well done, kids. And I'll see you soon. Be good. Bye.